when we first went out to iGaming conferences and we showed this to seasoned veterans of industry, I always received the same feedback. Okay, we have never seen something like this before. So this could be a good thing. This can be a bad thing, right?
Hey, this is Jesse here, and you're about to hear my discussion with Tom from Savage Tech, which is the world's first true gamified retention engine for the iGaming industry. In this one, Tom breaks down how Savage Tech is using avatars to add a new layer of engagement for iGaming platforms, the inspiration he drew from his background in the gaming and esports industry, why being likable as a person is an underrated aspect of B2B sales, the importance of having peer support from other industry founders, why he decided to retire from participating in startup pitch competitions, and anecdotes from his recent experience closing a seed round for Savage Tech. Tom is one of the nicest and most genuine people I've met since starting the podcast almost 4 years ago, and I know you'll enjoy this episode as much as I did.
The Betting Startups podcast is presented by Optimove, the creator of positionless marketing and the #1 player engagement platform. Positionless marketing gives every marketer the power to execute any marketing task instantly and independently, and Optimove Ignite Plus is its program to support early-stage iGaming startups. If you're attending G2E in Las Vegas this October, you can find Optimove at stand number 2630 and tell them that Betting Startups sent you to receive your first month free. All right, we are back here on the Betting Startups podcast. And for this episode, I'm joined by Tom. And Tom is based in Berlin, which is one of my favorite cities in the world. I haven't been in a number of years, Tom. First of all, welcome to the podcast. And how is life in Berlin?
Well, today was quite stressful. You know, my son goes to elementary school, and for whatever reason, the school decided to celebrate the 130 year celebration or anniversary. So that always takes a toll on you. But besides that, Berlin is a great city to live in.
You're just coming off, as a lot of other people are, a busy week in Lisbon at the SBC Summit there. Unfortunately, I had to cancel my travel plans to go to Lisbon fairly last minute. I was meant to be there hosting First Pitch again. I'm still recovering from a foot injury, and I thought 3 days running around SBC in a very hilly city like Lisbon with cobblestone sidewalks was a bad idea, and my doctor agreed. So I stayed home. I had a lot of FOMO, though. I missed out. Tell me and tell the audience a bit about your experience at SBC Summit. How was it this year?
This SBC edition, it was just so well organized. You had signage everywhere. You actually found the booths. You got to your meetings fast enough. Everything was grouped perfectly in different halls. So I think the bottom of hall 3 was like only payment and this kind of stuff. And I think one of the best things that SBC does is you get this little bracelet, right? And you have like €30 a day to spend. So food and drinks suddenly don't become an issue anymore, right? So they have these street food festivals almost in between those halls where you can get everything that your heart desires. And it makes this entire experience of attending such a big conference, because it is big, very, very frictionless. You don't have to go out. You don't have to think about where you have to go and in order to get some energy back. And it was very, very well organized. And just one more thing, what I really liked was that they divided the entrance. So if you had a badge, you did not go through the main entrance, but they funneled you through almost like a side entrance. And it was just a fantastic event.
Well, I was secretly hoping you were going to say it was awful, which would make me feel a little less bad about missing it. But of course, it was a great show. And I remember back last year, Tom, I think the biggest complaint people had was the weather. It rained like all 3 days last year. How was the weather this year? Did SBC fix the weather for this year's show, or how did that go?
They really did, shout out to Sharon, she did an amazing job on that. So the blue sky, great weather, and seriously, nothing to complain about.
All right, Tom. Well, let's talk about you now. Introduce yourself. Tell us about your background, some of the major chapters of your journey prior to starting Savage Tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a passionate gamer all my life. I'm 43 years old. I still play indie games. I can't play multiplayer games anymore because of my kids, so I have to pause games from time to time. And yeah, I think this led to this entire journey. So I've been in the iGaming industry since 2007. I've managed and or co-founded 4 different esports betting platforms. So this is really where the entire unique journey started. I co-founded 2 of Germany's biggest esport teams, Mousebots and Big Clan. And after Unicorn, I had an agency, I had a gaming chair company. And at one point in time, I was like, man, this industry is so ripe to disruption. We need to do something else in order to create a product that is more geared towards generation Y and Z. And this is how we came up with our gamification of Savage Tech, where we created a fully customizable avatar that sits as an iframe on top of a sportsbook or a casino. And anytime the user generates turnover, this avatar goes on its little adventure. Basically, you receive action points and then you get to experience a unique adventure where you can unlock new bonuses, can't buy experiences, and it's basically instant gratification.
Talk about the origins of Savage Tech specifically. Where were you, I guess, the origins of it in terms of just your own journey? What sparked this idea for you? What problems did you see in the market? And ultimately, what was the catalyst for you to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to commit myself for the next number of years to building out this concept. Give us a sense of the start of it all.
The answer that you don't want to hear is that I was tired of shipping physical products from A to B. I just wanted to build something that can scale via technology. No, but all kidding aside, as a gamer, and I play on my mobile phone as well, and the new generation does so as well, there are so many great hooks and mechanics in freemium mobile gaming titles that always bring me back to open the app to take a look at my phone. And I thought gaming and iGaming, they are very similar in terms of what they want from their audience, right? They want to capture their attention. And of course, they want the audience to spend money for entertainment purposes with them. And when I looked at the freemium games, like how they are doing loyalty, how they are retaining the users, what kind of triggers that they are using, I thought, hey, there must be a better way to apply this to the iGaming industry. And the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about gaming in general is I want to have something that represents myself, which is an avatar, right? I want to tie myself to that avatar and then experience a journey with it. And this is how the idea of Savage Tech and the gamified avatar was born.
Let's go a level deeper now, Tom. Can you break down this concept of the avatar and the gamification? Give us a sense of how, that's integrated within a traditional sportsbook experience and ultimately how the users are interacting with this avatar alongside the core product and the core experience with the operator platform.
So if the operator integrates our solution, they have to enable you as a cohort, as a group of people that get to see it. You register or you log in, and at that moment, on the bottom left corner, most of the times, the avatar comes to life and basically greets you. And in that moment, you have the opportunity as a user, and this was one of the most requested features from operators, you have the option to opt out of this gamification layer. If you do not do that, the game or the gamification layer walks you through a tutorial and explains the game to you. And then immediately you're being faced with multiple options, as in we have encounters depending on the theme that we are creating. So most sports books want a football player. Then you have to make your way up the leaderboard, basically, in terms of these virtual encounters to become the best football player on this gamification layer. And we have a little shop system integrated, completely disconnected from real money that brings you back onto the platform because there's nothing that gamers like more than getting a good discount on a legendary item. Because we all know legendary items have a drop rate of 0.018% on average, or even worse than that. So being able to fetch an item that really propels you forward in your game progress, this is really enticing. And then I think the one feature that we are most proud of is the item system. So compared to the, let's say, more traditional gamifications out there in the market where depending on the turnover that you're generating, you're receiving points, we turned this gamification layer into its own little game. So those loot boxes that you're receiving, you actually get items that make your character stronger. So as a football player, you would be looking for legendary football boots, or as a fantasy warrior, you would be looking for a fire sword. And we are customizing up to 750 assets per vendor. It's not only the avatar and the UI that changes, but also the items, because it makes no sense for a warrior to look for football boots and for a soccer player, they don't want to look for a helmet.
So this is very much predicated, Tom, on driving retention KPIs for the operators and really giving the users a reason to come back and continue to engage and build up their avatar and all of the other various layers of value that the platform is delivering. What feedback are you getting so far from operators? Is the value prop resonating? And ultimately, is this driving the retention KPIs in the way that you hypothesized at the beginning?
When we first went out to iGaming conferences and we showed this to seasoned veterans of industry, I always received the same feedback. Okay, we have never seen something like this before. So this could be a good thing. This can be a bad thing, right? Pioneers, what was the saying? Pioneers get chopped or something like that. If you're too early, if the market hasn't adapted to your idea, you're going to have a hard time. But generally speaking, the feedback from the operators is very, very positive. They are all looking for something unique, for something else, because one of the biggest problems is due to the rise of white label solutions, the UI and the product that especially sportsbooks are offering. It very much looks the same, right? So I always say they look like colored Excel sheets. And what sportsbooks and casino are currently looking for is how can we make the experience so unique to the users that they don't go to a different sportsbook in order to claim the deposit bonus, but rather, hey, this entire experience on platform A is so good, the customer support is great, the payout is lightning fast, I have all the payment methods in the world that I would like to have. And then we come in and add our gamification. And I do have to say one thing. If the operator is not doing its homework in a correct way, right? So the loading time of the website is super slow, which is just horrible, right? Or during the first interaction with the payment gateway, you're receiving an error message. The best gamification in the world can't save you. But if you get all of those ducks in a row, then gamification can be this one big difference maker that keeps the users on the platform. We went live with Asian operators in the past where we had really, really good numbers when it came to the second non-incentivized deposit. Then we had to pivot a little bit because the product back then was very, very complex. And this was one of the complaints of operators. They said, Tom, it's very unique what you have built, but at the end of the day, you're not building a game for gamers. You're building a gamification for punters, right? So we took out a lot of that complexity and we're going to go live in November with the first couple of brands.
Tell me a little bit about just the B2B sales process, right? We talk a lot on this podcast with B2B startups about the dreaded integration roadmaps, sales cycles. It's long, it's frustrating, it's demoralizing at times. What's your experience been thus far having these conversations with operators, and really how have you navigated that dynamic?
I think the biggest learning that I had to take in was that you have to become part of the circuit. So if you're super eager and you attend your first iGaming conference and then you're talking to the first people and you cold approach them, basically, I'm really sorry, but the chances are super, super low that anyone is going to buy something off you. You have to build trust, right? And this can only take place when you meet the same people over and over again, when you are actually making friends in the industry. And I think this is the key to navigating through B2B sales. It's everyone is always busy and not a single operator or B2B platform has this Delta elite development team just waiting around, and then the CEO says, oh, Tom, it's great that you contacted me. I have these 20 people who are just waiting for you to integrate it, even though our integration only takes roughly 10 hours, but still, right? The product roadmap of all the big players, it's quite full. So you have to find an internal champion, someone that actually believes in what you're doing, that likes you as a person. I think this is something that is not spoken about enough. You have to be likable, right? You don't want to do business with people that you don't like. And once you have that internal champion, once they like you and they put you in front of the decision makers, in front of the stakeholders, you can actually make a difference and you get to the yes a lot faster.
I mean, I think you're making what sounds like an obvious point, but actually a very understated one is just being likable, right? I mean, as the old saying goes, businesses aren't doing business with other companies, it's people doing business with other people, right? So to your point, you have to find that champion. And to find that champion, you have to endear yourself to somebody in that organization who's willing to stake their own reputation internally and champion you up the flagpole and hopefully get the deal done. And just being likable is a huge component to that, which it sounds so obvious, yet it's not something, maybe everybody thinks about when they go out to these conferences and start getting on their sales roadshows here. And I think you're actually a shining example of that, Tom. I reflect back to a year ago in Lisbon during the first pitch competition. At that time, you were one of the 5 finalists pitching. That day, you didn't win the pitch competition, but I would say the overwhelming feedback you received from everybody in the room that day was at how likable of a person you were. And everybody, I would say, more than anybody else that pitched that day, everybody wanted to go talk to you after the pitch competition. And that is such a critical component of success with B2B sales. It's just being a good person, being nice, being approachable. And, I think you're a shining example of that. And, I'm happy to see that you're starting to convert that into traction for Savage Tech. And another thing I want to get your perspective on is the fact that you've been running around the globe literally for the past year here, but you're focused on different international markets and trying to deploy the Savage Tech product and technology into those markets. And the reality is, each global market, well, at, an abstract level, it's all kind of the same thing. Localization is a huge factor, right? There are nuances in each local market. There's different rates of technology adoption in different local markets, different infrastructure. Like, all of these things are variables. For somebody like you going around to these different markets, again, trying to sell your solution to operators in those markets, what are some of the things you've learned or the insights you've gleaned about how one needs to localize an offering and a solution on a multi-market roadmap?
Let's do it in 2 steps. So let's talk about sales first in different regions. So when I flew to Manila, where we actually won the startup pitch competition, it's very, very hard to get in touch with operators over there because most of them are grayish. So you need to have someone on the ground, a friendly operator, a friendly B2B platform that connects you with them. And business takes place outside of the venue. When I was in Sao Paulo in Brazil, I shouldn't have flown there, to be honest, because I don't speak Portuguese, I don't speak Spanish, and no one wanted to talk to me, in English, right? So that was a big problem as well. So all the European conferences, they make it a lot easier for you. In terms of localizing the software that we have built, I think the best example would be the African market. It's not a monolith, right? Every country in Africa behaves a little bit different. But in Africa, we are talking about mobile first, almost exclusively mobile. The bandwidth is not the best. We have a lot of legacy devices. So if we come around the corner with this super flashy 1 gigabyte of data has to be transferred before the first avatar comes to life, it would not be a fit for the African market. At the same time, and this is something that one operator told me at SBC, even our stripped down gamification in terms of complexity might still be too complex for the African market. So currently, we're looking to secure pilots in different markets in Africa just to test our scaling our technology. With them, we need to scale down the quality of the assets. We have to make it as quick as possible. We need to take out complexity just to see if this is something that can actually make a difference in the African market.
All right, Tom, let's shift. And no startup story is complete without talking about the capital side of it and the fundraising side of it. So just to start this one, give us a bit of a sense of any capital you've raised to date, who's on your cap table, if you can share. Give us a sense of how you've gotten to this point from a capital perspective.
So our first investor that took over the pre-seed round is a Polish venture builder, VC. It's called Tar Heel Capital. They invest money and development hours into startups. And then in the seed round, some really cool people came in. So for example, Paris Smith, you mentioned Pinnacle Sports before. So she invested into us. And then BetPlay Capital, for example, which is a family office from the Euroshek family in Poland. They are major shareholders in the gaming innovation group. So you can probably guess the opportunity in terms of integration that they are bringing to the table. And we just managed to close out our seed round. I can't name the names yet, but high profile, very well connected. And I think I always wanted to make sure that I have people on the cap table that bring more than just money. And I think this is, especially as a lean B2B SaaS startup, it is very, very important that the people, the investors that, of course, they have to like the product. Otherwise, they wouldn't be investing, right? They have to see the potential, but they need to be able to open doors for you, right? So there's nothing stronger. And I've experiencing this over the past 3 to 4 months. There's nothing stronger than a personal referral or an investor saying, hey, Tom, we have brand XYZ. Next week, we have a tech call. Let's go. All the best. Or an acquaintance, a friend that I met at a conference saying, Tom, I have 2 projects coming up. We really want your gamification. Can I open up a Telegram group? This is the kind of stuff that propels you forward.
Well, congratulations on closing the seed round, Tom. We all know how challenging that is to get to that point, and obviously a massive validation of everything you've built thus far at Savage Tech. Having just closed the round, you're probably not thinking too much right now about future capital needs, but just generally speaking, how do you think about how to scale the company from here forward, right? I talked to a lot of other founders who have a bit of a mental model that goes something to the effect of, we're going to raise a bit of friends and family money, going to raise a seed round. The seed round will allow us to get to a break even or a cash flow positive position, at which point we're going to grow organically from there and maybe not raise any more money. I get, of course, the other side of that coin, which is we're going to be raising money forever as a tech startup, right? Where do you sit on that continuum as you think about it today? Again, maybe not your most pressing priority now, given that you've just closed the seed round, but bigger picture, how do you think about, I guess, future capital needs?
Best case scenario, I never have to raise again. This is also the goal. This is why we are keeping such a lean team to make it possible. Look, all the investors that came in our seed round, they, in my opinion, received a very fair, a very attractive pre-money valuation. And the moment you take on third-party money, it comes with 1% of party mode and 99% of, getting a big chunk of responsibility, right? It's your job to making sure that the investors are receiving or getting the money returned with a multiplier on it. And I always find it funny when I browse through LinkedIn and I see all of these headlines. Hey, we just raised 50 million at 200 million evaluation. I'm just thinking, okay, so you have to sell the entire company for 1 billion. You have to do an IPO. Is the market right fit for this? And yeah, because I do not want to raise additionally, I don't want to do a Series A. I think we had a very, very good value proposition to the investors that came in where they think, all right, in a couple years of time, if there's an exit scenario, I am getting my money's worth. And I think this is really, really important.
All right, Tom, I want to also talk here a little bit about just your journey as a founder. I mean, we all have our own respective journeys we're on doing whatever it is we're doing. You're somebody who, through all the conversations you and I have had over the last year and a half, you strike me as somebody that's very reflective, very self-aware, humble, qualities you want in any entrepreneur, in any person, frankly. Just to tee this up, I mean, just broadly, what are your top level reflections thus far on being an entrepreneur, specifically within the iGaming industry, right? I mean, it has its challenges, it has its pros as well. How do you, I guess, reflect on, just starting a company within this industry specifically and the various pros and cons?
That is a big question. I think one of the earlier mistakes that I did was that I assumed that everyone was just waiting for my product. And this is just not the case. You have to speak with people over and over again. You have to present your product. You have to put yourself out there in order to be the face of the company that you are building. Another mistake, which I managed to fix over the months, was that I just hated public speak, putting yourself out there, being judged. It's not a nice feeling. But if you are not becoming the face of the company, who's going to be the face of the company, right? And what you mentioned before, business takes place between people, right? They're not buying something of Savage Tech. They're buying something of Florian, who's my co-founder and CTO. They're buying of something of myself, right? And this is something where you have to be so resilient. When you as an entrepreneur feel like, okay, this is an area that I really don't like, that I don't want to touch. Hey, guess what? It's exactly the kind of area where you should be, spend time with, making sure that you master it or at least understand it. And this is just something that I learned, that you have to be resilient. You have to put yourself out there. Otherwise, you're not going to find someone else who's going to do it for you.
Well, and you've been a great example of that, right? As alluded to, you were last year spending a lot of your time pitching in startup competitions at industry shows, which in and of itself is a very uncomfortable thing to do, right? Even if you're the most confident person and eloquent speaker and dialed in with your pitch, is still unnerving. It's tough to do that, putting yourself out there, being judged, as you say. Yet, yeah, you've been hard on that trail for the last year. But recently, you actually announced you've retired from startup pitch competitions. Tell us more about that. Like, give us a sense of, I guess, first of all, that the pitch competitions you've been involved in, how those went, and like what prompted you to make this public declaration that you're now retired from them. How does one retire from making pitches?
Well, I mean, this is the reason, you know. I finally managed to take home the Sigma Manila 2025 pitch competition. It was actually kind of funny because it was my sixth pitch competition, and for the first time I was like, all right, so let's not talk about Savage Tech. Let's more focus on myself. I'm just happy to be here. I don't think I'm ever going to win such a competition. And then, yeah, Trudy announced my name at the end, and it was quite an unreal moment. I always say that these pitch competitions, they are probably one of the most honest awards that you can win in our industry because you can't pay for it, right? Either you deliver a very, very good presentation, you can paint a picture of where you want to go, you can share the vision with the judges, or you don't. And yeah, luckily for me in Manila, at least, you know, I managed to do that. And unless Match Hype, for example, fantastic company who won it twice, I don't fancy my chances of going up on the stage again to try to win it a second time. And I think there are other companies out there that deserve it as well to be in the limelight. So, for example, at SBC Lisbon, where you were a little bit tardy and didn't show up, I was wholeheartedly supporting Will Martin from Live Duel. And I think his prediction market that he's currently building is just a fantastic product. The guy is so smart. And I really, really wanted to support him and show him, hey, someone in the audience is there for you. Because this was something that I felt like I was missing when I did all the other startup pitch competitions, that I could focus on someone in the audience that was, you know, giving me the kind of self-confidence of being up there. And yeah, unfortunately, Will did not win, but yeah, he still liked what I did for him. So we startups, we have to, you know, we have to have a close bond.
Well, I was just going to say that, Tom. I mean, number one, it's very big of you to take time out of your very busy conference schedule to go there just to support another founder, knowing probably what he was feeling being up there on stage, having gone through it yourself multiple times. And there is something to be said for this idea of camaraderie and peer support and mutual understanding and admiration within the early stage founder community. Just briefly talk a bit about that as well, and just, you know, your peers around you that are also building whatever it is they're building. Give us your experience, I guess, on just what it means to have good relationships with other founders and sort of sharing the wins and losses and, you know, the ups and the downs together, and just having that peer support and that network.
I'm a big fan of helping others first without asking for anything in return. So I'm part of the Empowered by Defy the Odds community, which was founded by Sue, Kelly, and Paris. I mean, they are all goats. They are all the goats of our industry. And I really like what that community is doing, right? So you have a platform where you can help each other, where you can share the knowledge, share the pitfalls that you went through, the mistakes and such. But I think one shining example, for example, would be Adar Ziv, the chief LinkedIn officer, probably iGaming's most influential person, at least on LinkedIn. And the guy is just a nice person. So friendly, so helpful. He never asks for something in return. And he has this mantra, this motto that, hey, Tom, I'm going to help anyone as long as they are nice to me, that as long as I don't feel like they are taking advantage of me. And eventually something is going to come back to me. And this is an amazing approach to building out your network. Help others first, and eventually they are going to help you as well. And I've seen it in the past. So for example, Pigaboom, right, from Nico, amazing crash game. They put in so much gamification. And I connected them with aggregators, with B2B platforms, Timeless Tech, for example, integrate them right away. And I'm talking to Nico maybe every other 2 weeks, you know, but it's always like, hey, Tom, by the way, I have a project here and you should talk to this person. He's interested. And this is the kind of camaraderie that you've mentioned, If you form a close bond with other people, they want to help you, they want to see you succeed. And it all goes back to being nice, being respectful.
All right, Tom. Last set of questions here. We're in the home stretch. We're going to hit you with the rapid fire questions we do at the end of every episode. So let's have some fun with this one. First question for you. When you get up in the morning, check your phone. What's the first app you open?
Kurt, it's a game. It's a game called Sci-Fi. It's an incremental game that is absurdly slow, right? So you're playing this for years, and unfortunately, this is the first game that sort of caught me.
Next rapid fire question for you, Tom. If you weren't talking to me this evening in Berlin, if you were out at the karaoke lounge instead, what song would you be singing?
Oh, definitely Taylor Swift. It's definitely either it's Love Story or You Belong to Me, or I'm very, very good at Backstreet Boys as well. It's definitely going to be that.
All right. Well, I've already got my plans made. We're going to book a room at the karaoke lounge next time I see you at an upcoming conference here. I got to see this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please.
All right. And the last one here for you, Tom. If you could be anybody else for one day, dead or alive, who would that be?
I only have such a boring answer for you. I really don't want to trade places with anyone, even for one day. I have a loving wife. I have 2 beautiful children, and I don't want to be someone else. I'm very, very happy with where I am, who I am, and I wouldn't want to miss them for a day. So unfortunately, I can't trade places with anyone.
Wow, I actually really love that answer. It's a wholesome answer and a genuine one, and we're going to accept that, Tom. For people listening that want to reach out to you, maybe learn a little bit more about Savage Tech and get more familiar with everything you're doing, quickly plug the best way for them to do that.
Well, the easiest way would be to connect with me via LinkedIn or just go to our company page, even though it's still a very startup page. It's savagetech.gg. There's a Calendly widget where you can book a meeting with me. So yeah, this would be the easiest way to get in touch with me.
All right, Tom. Well, that takes us to the end of this conversation for today. I really appreciate you jumping on with me, and it's been a lot of fun to get to know you, one of the absolute nicest people I've met over the last few years in this industry. Hand over my heart, Tom. I think everybody listening would agree after this conversation, and looking forward to seeing you at an upcoming show, and obviously wishing you and your team all the best with everything you have underway right now.
Thank you very much for having me, Jesse.
The Betting Startups podcast is presented by Optimove, the creator of positionless marketing and the #1 player engagement platform. Positionless marketing gives every marketer the power to execute any marketing task instantly and independently, and Optimove Ignite Plus is its program to support early-stage iGaming startups. If you're attending G2E in Las Vegas this October, you can find Optimove at stand number 2630 and tell them that Betting Startups sent you to receive your first month free.